Hey, Gavin.
Hey, Louie.
Girly, I saw you yesterday. This
You
is
did.
unprecedented. We're unprecedented. We just spent 15 minutes talking about Company.
Because
you
you guys would love the pre-show.
Honestly, when's our Broadway podcast coming out?
The mixed reviews Broadway edition.
We were just mixing our reviews about the productions of Company. The reviews they were mixed, okay? Gavin has some spicy thoughts.
Yeah, we are not the same person,
I know.
We weren't the same person when we began that conversation.
And we'll never be the same again.
Nope.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Mixed Reviews.
We are a film podcast where we take a film subject such as an actor, director, or a mini genre, and we take 2 weeks. We watch as much as we can. We do as much research as possible, and then we part it all back to you, and we tell you what we like and what we don't like.
Yes, the reviews, most of the times, are mixed. This is a very special episode, I would say, because on our last episode with special guest Derek B. Gale, we brought up this person. We talked about him a couple of times. And at the end of the show, me and Gavin were like, who should we do? And it's pure coincidence because Paul Rudd has a movie coming out and Gavin was in Spain, so we needed someone a little bit easier to do. And we said, well, we did just talk on the show, like, save it for the Paul Rudd episode. And guess what, baby? It's here.
You're getting your Paul Rudd episode.
Toni Collette. Who knew the Toni Collette to Paul Rudd pipeline was so strong? And yet here we are. We have a little bit of old business. Speaking of our mother, Toni Collette, we asked you guys to go online and vote for your favorite Toni Collette movie, and the results are in. Gavin's pick, Miss You Already, came in last place with 7%. But
wow,
that was,
who saw that coming?
But
Wow.
Gavin surprised us all with that pick. Who knew Gavin could make little sentimental picks like that?
I know.
And I will say, Miss You Already, Gavin loves to fucking drag me about we recorded a bonus episode yesterday, and Gavin said this was more of a you movie than me movie. Bitch, well, first of all, Miss You Already is a me movie and not a you movie, and yet here we are. Okay?
Yeah, I realized too when I was editing that episode, the Toni Collette episode, I never finished my thought about why I was picking Miss You Already, and I said, I think after 5 years, I know our audience. And what I was implying was that I think it's a movie that the people that listen to our show would like if they have not seen it. And hopefully my recommendation would get them to see it because it really is a beautiful film. And that's what I wanted to impart on the audience with that. But I truly did. I was like, I'm not winning this poll.
Gavin, just be honest. You're a Catherine Hardwicke stan.
Absolutely. I only picked her Little Red Riding Hood movie for my least favorite werewolf film in our werewolf episode.
Wow.
So
talk about highs and lows, Catherine.
Yeah.
She's all over the map over here. Next up was Clockwatchers, which was my pick at 14%. And then The Sixth Sense, which was Derek's, came in at 36%. And Muriel's Wedding, the classique, the original flavor that none of us picked, but we all bowed down to, came in at first place with 43%. It is incredible. It is that girl. We had a lot of people write in their picks as well. We had an About a Boy, which seek treatment. In Her Shoes, which is excellent.
Can't argue with that.
Trana came with us with Hereditary. We had a couple Hereditaries. Someone just put in the United States of Terra, which, you know what? Yes, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
Is it her best film? No, but it is very good. Because famously, it is not a film.
Yeah. That's not how this works.
Someone also mentioned Fright Night.
It's funny. We didn't even talk about it in the episode because it's truly like, it's funny. We didn't really talk about it on the Colin Farrell episode either. It's a good movie, and I don't mean to take away from it. And I shockingly really like it, even though it is a remake of a movie I also like. But that's sort of, sometimes that happens. Sometimes you get a good remake of a film that's also good.
sometimes you get a good company, even though there was already a good company that was already made. It's so crazy. And
Is it good company?
There's a little Sondheim for you there. But she will always be our mother. We love her so much. What a great time recording with Derek. So thank you, Derek. Thank you, Tony. I miss you already.
Aww.
Girlies. See what I did there? That was good.
That was very good. One last piece of old business before we move into this week's episode. I do want to give a shout out to our newest patron, Gnome. In our Patreon rewards, we did mention that if you become a all-star level supporter, you get a shout out on the show. Gnome Pilisher, you are our newest all-star. Thank you
Welcome
so
to the
much.
Gang. Welcome to the gang, girly.
Very excited to have you.
Yes. We live, laugh, love all of our patrons. And I hope you guys enjoy the Jennifer Lopez Shotgun Wedding bonus episode that we put out today. The movie's silly Billy fun, and you can hear us talk about it over on the Patreon.
Those episode updates are also only available for our All-Stars tier. So, sorry if you're the lower tier, but that's okay. You can always bump up if you want.
Yeah, we love you just the same.
We do.
But anyway, let's get into this episode. Today we're talking about Paul Rudd, who we famously mentioned.
You said that like a grade school teacher. Yes. Kids gather round.
And today, Paul Rudd, he never ages and everyone likes him. That's it. Episode over.
Thank you very much for joining us. If you want to contact us, you can contact us.
We talked about him like randomly in the last episode because we were supposing that he was someone's. We were talking about Nepo babies and we were like, is this someone related to Paul Rudd?
So his wife wrote Fun Mom Dinner.
Yes.
And that was I was like, well, I haven't done enough research to know if
she
this
was
is
related
his wife
to or sister.
And it was
the wife.
It's his wife. Yeah.
And so we just said, we were trying to find someone who would be like not too difficult to get through because Gavin was famously being a cheetah girl over the last week, which we love. We landed on Paul Rudd. Gavin, what's your relationship to Paul Rudd? He wears lots of hats, I would say.
He does. So I mean, obviously, I think anybody that's of my age, I know you're slightly younger, just a tiny bit, just a real tiny bit. Okay.
I'm a child. I don't know what you're talking about.
But anybody that's around my age probably saw Paul Rudd for the first time in Clueless. I mean, his turn as Josh is screen iconic for any. What are we? Are we millennials?
We're millennials.
Yeah. For any millennial.
You might be a Gen X. I don't know, Gavin.
Oh, fuck you. Okay. And
the line is like really blurry, so I don't know.
Well, that's because I'm using a heavy filter.
Yeah.
It keeps the wrinkles out. Yeah, so his turn it's Josh is just iconic, and it's hard to think of him as anything else. But I think the movie that like I remember him most from childhood was The Object of My Affection.
Did you tell me that your sister loved that movie?
I did. Hi, Nikki. By the way, Nikki listens to the show now.
Hey,
and she actually wrote us a nice Facebook comment saying that she only watched Everything Everywhere All at Once because of our suggestion, which is funny because I could have just spoken to her and I'm sure she would have ignored it. But when you have
Louis, me better.
Yes. She wishes you were her brother. I get it. But my sister loved that movie. I remember. Nikki might have a different recollection. Everybody has a different recollection, but I remember her watching it a lot when I was a kid and me being like, oh, Paul Rudd.
Oh, he's a homosexual?
Yeah, what's that like? Funny enough, I rewatched that movie today, and I have thoughts, but I have not seen it since I was a kid. And I think those two are what formed who Paul Rudd is for me.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely saw Clueless, and like, it's funny though because like I was not a Wet Hot American Summer person. Like a lot of his like early comedy stuff really flew by me. Definitely saw Clueless because my older cousin, she was just like, this movie's
Okay,
iconic.
older, like, come on.
She's like 40 and I'm not. Because the first time I saw Clueless, there was a lot I did not understand. I did not understand that the gay guy was gay. I just, all the jokes with about sex and stuff, I didn't understand. I was but a child. But I do remember, like, I mean, the movie is iconic, and so yeah, that definitely was the beginning. But it was until like once Judd Apatow finds Paul Rudd,
Yeah.
he is frozen in amber. He is the everyman who's like the goofball, and so you get the Anchorman, you get 40-Year-Old Virgin, Knocked Up. This is 40. Like it's the Paul Rudd. He is but a planet in the Judd Apatow solar system, and I guess. Yeah, I mean, you kind of like, along with like Will Ferrell and all those characters, like kind of as we were, for me at least, going through like high school and college, it's like every year you were getting one of those movies. They're kind of bro-y, not kind of, they are bro-y. Like, it's like
I was gonna say
bro-tastic, and but like girls think like he's cute, and he is cute, like of course he is, but he's affable and goofy. Yeah, he's kind of a silly Billy. A part of me is like, God, is there like a lot to say about Paul Rudd? Because
I know, I feel the same way.
Because he's just, yeah. I was reading a New York Times article, and like the whole thing was like, he's likable. His whole thing is he's likable, and it's like, yeah, he is likable. Is he a great actor? I don't know. What's funny is though he went to school. He's a Broadway baby. I mean,
I believe he's very dedicated to his craft.
Yeah. But I think that's not what the girlies come for when you go to see a Paul Rudd movie. And like, I think that's going to bear out when we kind of go through his career, because there have been some like more serious turns where it's like,
Yeah.
So with all that, why don't we get into the rewind? All right. It's my turn this week. So Paul Stephen Rudd was born on April 6th. Stephen. He was born April 6th, 1969. Makes him 53 years old, which is wild.
Yeah.
The man looks great.
But it's so funny because, I mean, that's the thing with Paul Rudd. It's like the Keanu Reeves Paul Rudd thing, where it's like everybody's like, oh, they don't age and whatnot. Everybody, like, I'm sure he's so tired of hearing it, because everybody asks it, almost every interview. And let me tell you, there might not be a lot of interview clips in this episode because the man has never given a serious interview in his life. Mm-hmm. But every interview that somebody brings it up, he's like, I age.
I most certainly age. I especially these days.
Well, that's where most of the money went to the de-aging effects. As Michael said, it all went to me.
I feel awful on the inside. Aged greatly.
I'm 80 years old on the inside. It's a mess underneath, all in here and in here. Pure darkness.
There have been interviews where he's talking about like, yeah, people ask me the same questions over and over again, and now I'm at the point of like, is that even reality? Like, the things I'm saying, did that even really happen? Like,
right.
He's so disarming though, because he's like, people don't want to like push Paul Rudd because it's Paul Rudd, and he's not on social media. He's been married forever. Like, he has a very normal fucking life, and so it's a little bit bizarre that he is so easily to be so detached from giving a lot of his life away, because he doesn't, and he just kind of like laughs it off, like, lol, I'm an actor, whatever. He was born in New Jersey, but so he's born in New Jersey to Jewish parents, and he's Jewish, but he's also very much like, meh, it was whatever. Like,
yeah,
his parents were English born, so
I was gonna say they're also British, which is like,
British Jews.
Their last name's originally Radinsky, but their grandfather changed it, I believe.
Yeah, and I think also he just talks a lot about how his dad was very much like, religion, whatever. Like, and he says now, with his kids, he's like, yeah, we had a bar mitzvah for my son, but like, it was very like, we're doing it because all his friends are doing it, not like because of any specific, religious reasons. His father, Michael, was he worked for TWA, and his mom, Gloria, was a sales manager at a TV station. So he spent a little bit of time in Jersey, but most of his formative years were actually spent in Kansas City, Missouri, Kansas. He talks about Kansas specifically, but yeah,
it's the smaller one, Kansas City, correct. Kansas.
When I was 10, I'd already been in, I don't even know how many schools. I think because my parents were both British, that I had moved around. I was always a new kid in school, and I was Jewish, certainly in Kansas City, and I knew that was I was in the minority there. I always felt a little different than I guess most of the kids. And what I learned kind of early on is that like if I make Jewish jokes about myself, I noticed that all of the kids would laugh really hard. Yeah. It wasn't until I got older, I'm like, that's kind of messed up.
No one in his family is an actor. There was nothing like really setting him up for like acting success. He was just kind of like a normal kid. He loved like reading skateboarding magazines, and he loved like California culture. And he talks a lot about how he was like, oh, it's so weird that people like are born places and then stay there their entire lives. Like, because he was, going to London a lot to see family. He definitely had family still in the Jersey area. So he was kind of like globe hopping a little bit. It was in high school. He was famously on the debate team, which was called Forensics in Kansas. And they were like state ranked or like something crazy like that. So
they were giving speeches about why gay marriage should be legal or not legal, and also solving crimes.
Yeah. SVU style.
I believe that's actually CSI style would be forensics.
Oh yeah. I love that you're like actually that's incorrect. He says that it was like a neighbor who had a kid who was like an actor was the first person to tell Paul Rudd like, have you thought about being an actor? This was like when he was in high school, and he was like, oh, is that a thing that people can do? And this is the story he tells. Maybe it's wrong, maybe it's false, and he's just making up in his imagination. But he saw Steve Martin going on tour and was very inspired by Letterman and stand-up comedians, really. But for whatever reason, he never really tried to be a comedian, like a stand-up comedian at least. But so he did a couple of plays in high school, went to the University of Kansas, did a couple of plays there. And it was, I think he said like he spent 2 years in Kansas, and then he went to California and joined the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. He said that, that was the only place he really considered and auditioned and got in, went. He also went to go study in Oxford, just because that little London connection. So the British American Drama Academy, if you will. He worked as a DJ at bar mitzvahs to pay the bills, which
he did.
Which, Gavin, you know all about, honey, being a DJ.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's a bit different DJing somebody's... No, I guess it's really not DJing somebody's passage into manhood and then also being a strip club DJ.
See, there you go.
I got talents, baby.
Hello.
When I was in going to school, and I would DJ on the weekends, but not a cool DJ. It sounds like, oh, I was a DJ. And now DJs, like, that's like, I wouldn't know how to really DJ. I used to DJ.
You did?
Bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs and birthdays. And
that's adorable.
For a company called You Should Be Dancing.
Famously, Paul Rudd in 1991 made a very famous Nintendo commercial. And so that was like kind of his acting debut, really. Gavin, your favorite Sisters show premieres, and he's in that.
Yes, he did. I believe he did 3 seasons of Sisters. Now, I don't want to get us too sidetracked talking about Sisters, but Sisters was a show I used to watch with my mom growing up. I loved it so much. And he joined, I want to say, he was like their attempt to swing at like a slightly younger audience, because all the main characters had their own kids and everything. And so Alex, played by Susie Kurtz, her daughter Reed, played by Ashley Judd, needed a love interest. They bring in Paul Rudd playing a character named Kirby.
He comes to New York. Like, he wants to be, like you had mentioned earlier, he's kind of like serious about the craft of acting. And he has said before, like, he wanted to have a long career. He wasn't worried about what kind of roles he got. He just wanted to make sure that he had like the stability to have a lasting career. And so he goes to New York instead of going straight to LA. But you know, it's weird because it's not slow going. He's getting booked, but like nothing like catches fire, I would say.
Right.
Like he leaves Sisters to be in Clueless, which should have been like, I mean, it is a huge deal. Like that Clueless was a seminal moment, but like Alicia Silverstone catches fire. Like Paul Rudd does not.
Right.
And even getting in Clueless, he like beat out Ben Affleck, Zach Braff, like all the girls wanted the role of Josh.
Hi, you just got here and already you're playing Couch Commando?
Hey, you know, in some parts of the universe, maybe not in contempo casual, but in some parts, it's considered cool to know what's going on in the world.
Thank you, Josh. I so need lessons from you on how to be cool. Tell me that part about Kenny G again.
So Clueless happens in 95. It's a big hit, but like it does more for like Amy Heckerling and Alicia Silverstone.
Right.
And which Paul Rudd reteams with Amy Heckerling later in, what's the name of that movie?
I Can Never Be Your Woman.
I Can Never Be Your Woman, which we maybe briefly mentioned in our
Michelle Pfeiffer episode. It was actually my 1-star review in the Michelle Pfeiffer episode. I hate that movie with a passion. I will say, before we talk about the ramifications of Clueless, because even though he was not...
The ramifications of Clueless are very wide, varied, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Political climates change.
Yes.
Social climates change. Climates changed. And really,
and
it started
may I remind
everything.
you, it does not say RSVP on the Statue of Liberty.
See? That's the poli-sci that you need in this world.
What would the Haitians say?
But he did film a movie before Clueless.
Yes.
And that's a little film called Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, which was also Halloween 6. But it had not come out yet. And even though, like you said, he was not an overnight sensation like Alicia Silverstone was off of that film, it did cause the producers of that movie to really advertise that they had Paul Rudd from Clueless playing the Tommy Doyle character, which, by the way, he was offered to play that role again in Halloween Kills, which Anthony Michael Hall ended up playing that role in Halloween Kills because he is good friends with David Gordon Green. They did Prince Avalanche together. And he was like, no, but I give my blessing to, you know, whoever you pick to play that role.
Like, I'm fine.
Yeah, I'm good.
Michael's work isn't done in Haddonfield. And soon, very soon, he'll come home to kill again. But this time I'll be ready.
This is like the pre-bro era. You know, he's... which I kind of like this era. It's a weird era. He's mostly doing tip spots, but like he is playing and not yet typecast.
Right.
You know, he does a little bit moment in Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, playing Paris, Juliet's suitor.
Yes. The aforementioned The Object of My Affection, which is kind of a huge deal, like to play the main love interest of Jennifer Aniston, who was very hot from like Friends.
Yeah. He had said that he knew her prior to this, that he was like acquaintances with her and David Schwimmer beforehand, and watching them, like he wasn't jealous of watching their rise from Friends, but he said it was sort of a very peculiar thing to see them all go from working actors to like, oh no,
Right.
they're famous now.
Yeah, and it's weird because like this movie and like 200 Cigarettes and maybe Cider House Rules, they're maybe less Cider House Rules, but like they're all very like New Yorky films. You know, it's very
Yes.
just like kind of, you know, there woe is me a little bit, and like life is crazy, and like Object of My Affection, he plays a homosexual. He plays gay quite a bit, actually.
He does.
Yeah.
And
I don't know what to say about that. I think he does a fine job.
yeah, no, I mean, it's whatever. I mean, he's so cute in the movie.
He's so cute.
I will say this. I had not seen it since I was a kid, and I was like, oh yeah, it's like a good like rom-com sort of. No, it's not. Revisiting today, I was like, in a way, it's got elements of a rom-com. The closest in rom-com it gets to is I almost feel like My Best Friend's Wedding, because it's wild that Jennifer Aniston would want to star in this movie when she is the villain. Like,
yes.
and it's so manipulative. And I get that it was a different time. And
that's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Yeah. And like dealing with, I mean, everybody thought homosexuality was new, which it wasn't, but it was new in the media in the way that it was getting attention. These stories were being told. And there's a scene towards the, I mean, for those who don't know, that this is a film about a woman who meets Paul Rudd and she falls in love with him even though he is gay, and she's having a baby and she doesn't love the man that she's having a baby with, and so they move in together, and she kind of manipulates him in a way that like to like try and be like help me raise my kid.
It's proto Will and Grace almost, like it's
kind of, but
because like they do love each other, like not in a romantic way, but he's very much like they take dancing classes together, and he's like, because he's also going through a breakup, and so like they're very leaning on each other to support each other and be friends. And then she gets pregnant and she's like, what if we raise this child together? And he's like, yeah, sure. But then he's like, I want to fuck guys.
Right. Well, but also like she's kind of toxic. It's not a flattering portrayal of because like at least in, and like I didn't watch a ton of Will and Grace. I'm sorry. I know that
really?
Makes me
wow.
Yeah.
Well, that makes you a Gen Xer for sure.
Yeah. Oh, fuck you. The second fuck you of the episode. I don't know. I could not cotton her behavior.
No, of course. But I think like watching this movie, and I watched this maybe for like gay cinema episode, because I'm like, why did I see this movie? I saw this movie for this podcast before. And this time around, I thought like, this is clearly such a like reaction to like, how do people like live with like gays? Like it's such a clear, like, we don't know how to behave, and you know, and this woman being like, what do you mean you deserve a life? And like, you have your own, like, you know, you mean you're not going to be like my gay BFF who like drops everything to be with me? And so her behavior, of course, is like fucking gross. But I think the movie does a really good job of being like, yeah, you're a fucking psycho bitch. In the end, you know, he gets to like leave and have his own life, you know?
Right.
Like she learns her lesson. And so to me, it's like, yes, this was 1998. And we had to explain to the allies that we are going to have our own lives as well.
Yeah, that we are autonomous people that get to have their own. Yeah.
And like, and also I liked that, you know, there's different types of gays. There's like an older man who like, you know, and so
and I did. Yeah, I will say the study or the representation of the older man who has like a younger lover who is also opening the relationship to Paul Rudd and slowly becomes Paul Rudd's love interest and
at the very end it is like Modern Family vibes. It's very fucking 1998 in New York City. Like it's like it's like this weird time capsule. I think like the greatest like fucking horror of this movie really is just like they sold it as this rom-com of between Paul Rudd and Jennifer Aniston, and it's like, look at these two very attractive people, but like it's not that at all. It's too complicated, and it's just in a book, and the book is even more complicated. You know, like they really watered it down for this.
Well, I've always had terrible judgment. My entire freshman year, I had a crush on a guy named Trotter Bull III. Looked just like one of those rowers.
Looks like pretty good judgment to me.
Except he had a girlfriend. I actually got up the courage to talk to him one night about Walt Whitman. He probably became an investment banker, had 4 kids, all named Trotter, and never talked about poetry again.
I'll talk to you about poetry.
And did you know that who did the screenplay? Fucking Wendy Wasserstein, which is kind of iconic.
Yeah,
so,
that is iconic.
Around this time, also he's in The Cider House Rules, which to me, you know, I didn't rewatch that movie, but like it's just like he was playing in the like Clueless, like in the Ben Affleck, Matt Damon universe of like hot young man who was like down to be like Tobey Maguire, like we're all the boys jockeying to be like the boy.
Yeah, and it's funny because I think even the lesser seen stuff is really in that realm too, because I also watched a film called The Size of Watermelons, which I still don't really understand why it's called that, where it's an entire movie that he basically carries, and it's him and Donald Logue, and he plays a wannabe filmmaker, and it's all like has very little aesthetic, but I appreciated the fact that it constantly is, he's, because he wants to be a filmmaker, he's constantly being like, you know, Quentin Tarantino says, and everybody laughs at him.
Quentin Tarantino once said, I didn't go to film school, I went to movie. Hey, Quentin Tarantino said he didn't go to film school, he went to movies.
Yeah, but Quentin Tarantino eats my ass.
There's this film he did called The Locusts, which is like this Tennessee Williams wannabe.
We mentioned this in like in our Brendan Fraser episode, where it's like, if they're not the main guy, but like we're in a school, so like all these other guys are like, oh, that's a famous person. That like there's Kevin Bacon. Like, you know, it's all the girls are here. The next thing he does is a full left turn. In 2000, he gets cast in Jackie Chan Presents Gen Y Cops.
It only premiered in America on Sci-Fi Channel. It's also really funny and notable that Jackie Chan had nothing to do with this movie. He was in the previous film. He was in Gen X Cops, which I'm not one of. And yeah, I made you watch this movie because we talked about it when we recorded our J-Lo.
I saw the scenes of him with like the Graham Norton episode where and it's funny when people bring it up to him and he's like, it was so weird, it was great, you know. I learned my little Cantonese, and he knows, and that's also the thing about Paul Rudd, he's so unserious. He's like, acting is dumb. I don't know, like it's all, and I think that's also why like he's like, these interviews are silly because it's like, you know, I'm here to sell a movie. Like, you know,
and that's definitely the thing is like, and I don't mean to act like he's making my job any harder because I don't care. But it's funny that like he knows he's there to sell a product. So and his greatest asset is charm. He is a charm offensive machine. Yes. And so
it's offensive how charming he is.
It truly is. And that, you know, he's there to sell a product, so he's not gonna waste time on being, you know, the world's most serious. He's not gonna Daniel Day-Lewis everything and be like, I lived as fucking Abraham Lincoln for 3 months,
no,
texting like, Sally Field in character.
Right, he's like, okay, they hired me for this gig, and I was like, yeah, I want to go to like Hong Kong to make a movie, and for this movie, Gen Y Cops. He's like, yeah, I'm the FBI director, and they told me I had to bleach blonde my hair, and so he did it. He's like, most of his speaking role is in English, but there are a couple of Cantonese moments dibble-dabbled in there.
What?
Which is funny because I think the version you can find in America is only dubbed, or at least the version I watched, it was on Tubi. And so he is doing his lines for almost the entire film, except for the very end where he has like 3 lines in Cantonese and they dub him with somebody else.
Right.
Which
so you're not even hearing Paul Rudd.
You're not even hearing Paul Rudd at that point. But he also did improv a famous line about Roseanne Barr in the film, and he knew he could get away with it because he was one of the only English speaking people on set. I don't know how true that is though, because their English was kind of prevalent in Hong Kong as well at the time, but alas.
He was your partner. If we lose him and the robot, it's down to you 2 guys. Roseanne Barr Arnold to be president of the United States of America before you 2 punks see the light of day.
If you had to say what lit the fire for Paul Rudd, I think most people would say Clueless. But I think the real answer is in 2002 when he's actually cast as Mike in Friends, Phoebe's love interest.
There really is the 3 sort of modes of his career. There's like the Friends era, the Apatow era, and now the Marvel era.
Him and Lisa Kudrow have very good chemistry.
Yeah.
I think their characters together are very good.
And I fucking love Lisa Kudrow, so like...
I know. Really, like, you know, this is kind of like he's committed to his little TV moments. It really isn't until 2004, 2 years later, after like he wraps up Friends in 2004, is when he gets his first Apatow movie, and that is Anchorman. He is one of the titular anchor men in the Will Ferrell squad. Did I rewatch Anchorman? No.
Yeah,
have I seen it? Of course I have. This is like the era of Judd Apatow realizes, oh, I know, you know, everyone knows kind of this guy, and he's just kind of like naturally charming and funny. We don't really need him to act anymore. We just need him to be himself. Be silly. He's naturally funny. And on top of that, I think he talks about, he's done interviews where he's like, oh, I love just like making a joke go on and on and on and on and on and on. And I think that's hilarious. And that's funny to me. And I'm like, that's my worst fucking nightmare. Yeah. He talks about Andy Kaufman, who is the king of that bit, and how he loves that shit. And I was like, ugh. Not for me, pal.
It's so funny though, because I think there's truly a different tract when, you know, it's a very famous thing in comedy called anti-comedy, which is when you allow a bit to go on so long it stops being funny, and then if you let it continue to go on, it'll eventually circle back into being funny. And I think there's some people who can do it really well. Actually, somebody who's not given enough credit on that in modern times is Kristen Shaw is really good at pulling off that sort of thing. But I think because Paul Rudd is who he is, and he is that charming sort of scamp, that it doesn't so easily come back around, if that makes sense. And so I specifically remember 40-Year-Old Virgin came out while I was in college, going for film, and I remember seeing it in theaters and absolutely loving it and thinking it was so funny. And then getting the DVD, which had the extended director's cut, and all the director's cut,
which is fucking saying something, because Judd Apatow famously cannot cut his movies; they're so long.
Well, but that was his first film, right? So he didn't have that luxury, and so the 40-Year-Old Virgin, for as long as it is still an economy of jokes. And
wait,
so then,
doesn't Anchorman come out first?
Did he direct Anchorman?
Directed by Adam McKay.
Yeah,
there you go, girlies.
Yeah,
I was
gonna say he just so in the director's cut, the difference is it was just like every joke lasted for like 7 or 8 minutes more, and they would just go on, and I was like, as somebody who was going for film and ended up becoming an editor, I was like, oh, this is truly the power of storytelling and filmmaking and editing, and like taking this stuff back and making it palatable and making it work in a tight sequence. You know, I never appreciated 40-Year-Old Virgin more than when I saw the monstrosity
What
that it could have been. Yeah. And I agree. Like, that's when Paul Rudd does it, there's something that is lost for me. And trust me, there's times where he does it in films where I think it works. I think certain directors know how to get him at the right peak. I'll talk about that in a little bit. Just a cute little tease there.
Okay.
But yeah, I think in the everything post 40-Year-Old Virgin, Apatow Land, it's like too much.
Well, I think like he is a goofball and we love it. I think it is hard because the likability factor is part of this. Like, I think about the bit in This Is 40 with him and Melissa McCarthy, and like how he is so good because he is allowing Melissa McCarthy to like fucking pop off. There are movies where he will try and do the thing and pop off. And you're right. It is harder to come back around to like, because I think he's at his best when he's reacting to the person who's going crazy. I don't think he has like he had the charm is too soft. Like there's, you know, so it feels like when he's rubbing against the grain, it feels like incorrect and wrong. I'm going to put a pin in that because there's a movie specifically when it happens where I'm like, I don't know. And Anchorman, I think, is a good example where I think it's fine because his character is so like defined. It's not necessarily him. Like there is like some theatricality and over the topness of everyone in that movie, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so there is like some fun there. And you know, this is not me shitting on Anchorman. I think Anchorman's fun. All these movies really like, you could lump them all together and be like, yeah, I guess if you're like a person who, you know, wants to smoke a little bit of weed and like have friends over, like, sure. But it's very samey. You know, they're the same flavor of movie. After Anchorman, which is a very big hit and people love everyone in that fucking movie.
60% of the time it works every time.
It's called Sex Panther by Odeon. It's illegal in 9 countries. Yep, it's made with bits of real panther, so you know it's good.
It's quite pungent.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, it's a formidable scent. It stings the nostrils. In a good way.
Yeah.
Brian, I'm going to be honest with you. That smells like pure gasoline.
They've done studies, you know. 60% of the time, it works every time.
That doesn't make sense.
That is the classic scene with him, right? Like you mentioned, 40-Year-Old Virgin. No. Yeah, 40-Year-Old Virgin. That's the movie you said, right? Yeah. So, again, I did rewatch this for this episode. He's, you know, kind of like the number 2 to Steve Carell, I guess.
Yeah.
And is very... I forgot that his love interest in this is Mindy Kaling. And I was like, oh my God, she's so young in this movie. It's crazy. But
I do like that in 40-Year-Old Virgin, he's also given the opportunity to be... I think the other mode of Paul Rudd is he's very funny and charming, but he's also like slightly angry.
Yeah.
and I think when he's allowed to express that anger, it oftentimes can be very funny. And that very famous scene where he flips out about the TVs and the fucking Michael McDonald concert.
Yeah.
Like,
Paula.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you something. I'm really excited about it. For the first time today, I woke up, I came to the store, and I feel confident to say to you that if you don't take this Michael McDonald DVD that you've been playing for 2 years straight off, I'm going to kill everyone in the store and put a bullet in my brain.
David, what do you suggest we play?
I don't care. Anything. I would rather watch Beautician and the Beast. I would rather listen to Fran Drescher for 8 hours than have to listen to Michael McDonald. Nothing against him, but if I hear Yamo be there one more time, I'm going to Yamo burn this place to the ground.
I do want to rewind because I did forget. Wet Hot American Summer comes out in 2001.
Okay, well, see, I was gonna wait. I was like, if Louis not gonna talk about it, I will wait. I think the unsung bit of those three modes that were like I think the things that people know him from is the Friends, the Apatow, and the Marvel. I think the lesser extent is the like David Wayne stuff, and I think those really allow him to get really silly. And I really love his performance in Wet Hot American Summer. I think it's so funny and like closer to true abstraction as to who Paul Rudd is, where he's allowed to play with the boxes that the other filmmakers have put him in. Because if Apatow likes him to be like an everyman sort of guy, David Wayne wants him to be an everyman sort of guy in a insane universe. and that's really like, he's like, okay, we can do this. And I think, when you have like Wet Hot American Summer or the other films that he's done with him, Wanderlust, They Came Together, he's really playing with that idea of, and admittedly Wet Hot American Summer, it's a little more abstract because he's like super cool guy.
Yeah.
But I think there's nothing funnier than that bit in Wet Hot American Summer when Janine Garofalo tells him to clean up. And he like acts like a fucking toddler. He acts like a 3-year-old would react when you tell them to clean up. And
it's funny because in that movie also specifically, it's not just like, oh, look at this like accessible guy who happens to be cute. His whole bit is that he is the hot guy.
Yes.
He is the hot guy who is horny and is probably a bad kisser because he's just licking people's faces.
He truly is. You taste like burger. I don't like you anymore.
Yeah. and also like, this is, it's worth mentioning. This is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like this is the beginning of like him working with these people over and over and over and over again.
He is a creature of habit. When he finds somebody he likes, he's willing to just work with them and work with them and work with them. And I that's commendable. And we've talked about a bunch of people like that on this show before, but I always think that's, when you find a groove and it works for you, why not?
Yeah, I mean, like, this will not be the first, or this will not be the last time he makes out with Elizabeth
Banks.
Yeah, like, I feel like him and her are, like, on the same, roller coaster ride.
I mean, they even did, we didn't even talk about it. I couldn't find it, but they did a Joe Dante film that was in the same, do you remember when we talked about Robert Rodriguez and we talked about the Salma Hayek, David Arquette movie, the like, Road Racers?
Yes.
Yeah. So that was a series of films that Showtime had produced that were remakes of 1950s greaser movies, essentially. And there's another one called Runaway Daughters that both him and Elizabeth Banks are in, a Joe Dante, and I could not find it. So if anybody has seen that, I'm curious to watch that relic.
Back in the Apatow land, it's 40-Year-Old Virgin. He's in Knocked Up, with Leslie Mann, who we will see him married with again later in This Is 40.
Yeah, playing this. I mean, those are the same characters from
right.
Knocked
it's the
Up.
same.
Yeah, unfortunately,
the same universe.
Like, it's the same universe.
We're getting into like the aughts, the later aughts. He's in Walk Hard. Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
And these are tip spots, and these are him being allowed to just come in and play. I love his bit in Walk Hard. He plays John Lennon.
Don't you agree, John Lennon?
Yes, Dewey Cox. With meditation, there's no limit to what we can imagine.
I love his bit in Forgetting Sarah Marshall, where he plays, a stone surf instructor.
They're coming, wiki. Can you get some towels for me, please? I'm really losing a lot of blood. You sound like you're from London.
It isn't until really like Wanderlust that he has a big role. These are, before it's just the little tip spots here and there. Wanderlust, I think, is taking the pin out, where I think, like, again, because there's the moment which I think was supposed to be like the big moment. And I had seen this movie before, but like when he's like in the mirror talking about his dick.
Yes. And it goes on for a really long time.
You gonna take that dick, I'm gonna pop off a piece of my dick. Oh yeah, I'm fixin' to fuck you. I'm gonna fuck you. I'm gonna get it all up in your vag. Get it up in your vag with my dick. With my dick. Gonna put it in with my dick. I'm gonna put my dick in. I'm gonna put my dick in. What's up, man?
Hey,
You
man.
alright? What's up?
And I'm like, this is the comedy of like, and this is, I mean, and Apatow, this is the bed Apatow made, because these bits that go on and then gave free fucking, permission to all the bros then to go out into the universe and just fucking repeat them over and over as if they were funny.
I disagree on this.
You think the Dick version is good?
Oh, I mean, I don't know if that entire sequence is that funny, personally, but I think the world David Wayne is coming from is a lot different than Judd Apatow, and I think you sort of have to, the David Wayne's type of comedy, him, Michael Showalter, Michael Ian Black had a comedy show called Stella. There were Stella shorts and everything, and they have this very sexually charged, odd, abstract sense of humor, and a lot of it is very childish and so I think that specific bit, though, does feel, I don't think your feeling is off about it feeling like that it only comes about because of the power of the Apatow stuff. I think that's true. I think Wanderlust probably doesn't get made without the Apatow movies getting made, but I think that is definitely more on a David Wayne level than it is an Apatow sort of, like, it's not really meant to be broy. It's sort of a more,
oh yeah, no, it's not meant to be broy. It's him, like, obviously being,
because it's supposed to like highlight the awkwardness of men, and
right.
And I think it does work, like when the scene concludes, because he's essentially psyching himself up to sleep with Malin Ackerman, which, by the way, Malin Ackerman in a comedy is my favorite.
Justice for Malin Ackerman.
Yeah, I hate her in a dramatic role, I will say. Anytime I see her in a movie where she's drama, I'm like, no, just do more comedy.
Yeah,
but
bring back Trophy Wife.
Yeah, yes, 100% bring back Trophy Wife. Mikhail Watkins in that too. Oh my god.
Know.
But yeah, I think because there's the payoff scene of how awkward he is, that he is so off-putting that Malin Ackerman no longer even wants to sleep with him.
The best
that works for me. I don't know, and maybe we're focusing too much on one specific scene. And you're right, it goes on for too long. And the fact that they then revisit it during the bloopers at the end, which, by the way, bloopers at the end of a movie, I never know how I feel about them. But I think maybe it's one of the weaker things in Wanderlust. But
I think I mean the thing for me is that Catherine Hahn in one take like steals the entire thunder of that joke away, which I laughed at her coming over and saying like, "You're gonna be in my vag," and I was like, "That she." So yeah. I don't know if it's because I just think it's to me it's such a clearly a canned bit thing. It's just like, I don't know, it didn't feel fresh to me.
Yes,
to
okay,
me.
I can see that. I can see where you're coming from.
The Wanderlust as a whole certainly is more silly than the Apatow verse, because I feel like Judd Apatow is always trying to find the comedy in like very human things, the mundane, and like, and he's obviously dealing with like his own midlife whatever. I'm not saying crisis
always,
but, yeah, like, you know, in the comedy of like getting older and the comedy of like kids and, you know, whatever. So yeah, you mentioned I should rewatch Wanderlust, and I did, and I was like, meh, still meh for me. So yeah, he does This Is 40, where he basically is playing Judd Apatow because he's married to Leslie Mann, who is Judd Apatow's wife, and literally his kids are the kids in the movie. Those fucking kids are so good. I fucking hate kids in movies, but I think those kids playing themselves is hilarious.
They're good, and unfortunately they're going to have to grow up someday and be like, Dad was really bad at writing women.
It must be weird. Like, they're going to grow up. One of them is on that HBO show with Zendaya. Euphoria.
Euphoria, yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah. She famously was in the Nepo Baby article because she is Nepo Baby.
Of course. Well, yeah. She's an Apatow.
Isn't it wild, like, their dad put them in a movie to play themselves with their mom playing, like, the mindfuckery of it, I don't get, you know?
I hated that movie. I had not seen it before. I watched it.
You hadn't seen This Is 40?
No, and I watched it and I was just like, this is so bad. This is not good.
I didn't hate it. I think Leslie Mann is perhaps not a super strong actress.
I mean,
I just think, like,
but is it the material? Like, because I don't dislike Leslie Mann as an actor.
I don't dislike her either. I think she's very funny, but there's moments where she's like, I'm crying. And I'm like, you're literally not. What is going on?
Yeah. I don't know. Like, that movie made me, like, more so than any of his other work. And he's always not been the world's greatest writer of women, but that one specifically, I was just like, has he ever met a woman? Does he not realize women are people?
The Megan Fox of it all.
Yeah, like...
Yeah, fair. Tis what it is. Anchorman 2 comes out.
We still never seen it. Didn't watch it for this.
I feel like I might have once upon a time watched it. In this era, also, you know, we have the O in Ohio, which we talked about for our Parker Posey episode. I did not watch this movie, The 10, which is another David Wayne movie. Did you watch The 10?
I've seen it before. I didn't rewatch it for this because
Skits and Bits?
Yeah, it's Skits and Bits, exactly. And so I was just like, there's nothing that this will really tell me about Paul Rudd.
He runs and does Role Models, which is a kind of return to, I mean, it's a David Wayne movie, but, like, it feels very Apatow.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the most, like, I mean, it's clearly the most mainstream David Wayne movie, and it feels the most, like, within that realm. Yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of this, like, type of movie, I kind of like Role Models. I think it's funny.
Yeah, I like Role Models as well.
I think Sean William Scott is, like, should be working more. He's still very hot and he's still very funny. Like, he has a bit and he does it very well. We have I Love You Man, which is, again, another Apatow moment. He famously is slapping the bass in this movie. It's cute.
I had seen it in the theaters in 2009, and I remember being like, I like this movie. And then I rewatched it today, and I was like, I don't think I like this movie. So, I don't know. I saw somebody, I don't want to claim this as my own brilliance, but I saw somebody say that the movie is both gay and homophobic, and I have to agree. I have to agree.
It is because there's the whole bit where it's like, oh no, people think I'm gay because I want male friends, and, like, they literally have the character who's like, kisses him. Yeah. That's the movie I'm thinking of. What's Ideal Home?
Yes.
When does that movie come out?
That's later. That was like 2 years ago, 3 years ago. But but once again, I Love You Man's not a Apatow directed movie. It's produced, and, you know, there's a difference between some of the movies he produces and some of the movies he directs, but
the ones that he
not by
doesn't
much.
The ones he doesn't direct are not 3 hours long.
Slap at the bass, mommy. Slapping the bass, mommy. There you go. Slap at that bass, mommy. I slap at that bass.
Please don't do that.
He does Dinner for Schmucks. He's kind of, like, really stuck in this world where it's just like, I mean, him and Steve Carell really are just, like, circling each other.
Yeah.
Doing, like, bits, hoping something sticks. in 2012 though, he does have a little bit part in Perks of Being a Wallflower where I was like, oh my god, he's playing like a real adult.
Yeah.
And like,
he's the teacher. This movie really feels like it's a space where a lot of for the adult characters, comedic actors came to play serious, but it's like truly like a tip spot for him and Joan Cusack,
right.
And they're both good. I think they're both good in the movie, but they're also not a ton is asked of them.
Right.
So,
he also does Our Idiot Brother around this time, which is very on the edge of the thing I hate the most, where like people treat him badly because he's annoying, and then like we're the bad guys because actually he's the one telling the truth the entire time.
Right.
It doesn't go all the way, like, because Paul Rudd is so likable. Like, I wasn't as grated by this movie as like, Adam Sandler movies that do this thing. But my God, everyone in this movie is a bad person.
Yeah.
He's just kind of like an annoying person, but he's good,
I know you've got a really important life, Miranda, but you know what? Some of us just like to sit around, enjoy our family, and play a game of charades. What's so funny, Nat? By the way, when a kid goes, you should at least give him the opportunity to act out his hint, all right, before you jump in with the answer, even if you know it.
It's the same stupid clue Mom always puts in for River.
So what? You're so cool, you're too bored, is that it?
For God's sakes, Ned, we have other things on our minds.
So you have to make it miserable for everybody?
Okay, Ned, we're gonna play.
Just play the game.
Let's get serious.
Just play a fucking game!
In the third act, all of a sudden, everyone acts like normal human beings,
Yeah.
like,
Yep. It's a very common thing with comedies, I've found.
Yes.
Especially after doing this show.
Yeah, it's just like nonstop. He goes back to TV. He does Parks and Rec, another little tip spots playing Bobby Newport.
I love him as Bobby Newport.
I know.
But once again, it is sort of that thing where he's just like attractive idiot.
Yeah. Oh my God. If there is a brand for him, it is Attractive Idiot.
Yeah.
And the sliding scale of like, how much of an idiot does he have to be? But again, reteaming with his Wet Hot American Summer co-star Amy Poehler.
Also, they came together, co-star 2014. They came together. It's a parody. It's a very sloppy doppy movie. I don't want to give it to, but I love him in it and I love her in it. But it's very like, he works for a big candy company. She has a small candy store. It's a complete parody of romance, of rom-coms, and it's got like really great moments, but it is shockingly sloppy for David Wayne. It's
almost Hobby Lobby, Polly Pocket, like Go Back to Party City Where You Belong, because the graphics, the like clearly like rendered, like they're like, we couldn't even get like a set to do this. We couldn't even produce a sign for this. Shocking how you can see like all of the hem of this movie. Did I enjoy this movie? No.
Oh, really? Okay. Well,
no.
We have different senses of humor. That's, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know.
Not even the scene where he makes out with his grandmother. I think that scene's so fucking funny.
No. I don't know. Am I showing my ass on this? I don't know. Like a part of me is
I don't think you're showing your ass on this, but like,
I get it's there's a lot.
I'm just more of a weirdo than you are, I guess.
I've been saying that for years. No, I just think like there are some times when like I know that I struggle with this type of comedy and humor. It's the
Christopher Guest.
Yeah, it's the Christopher Guest of it all over again, and the anti-comedy stuff. Like I get why this is supposed to be funny, but it's just too wink for me. It's too like self-indulgent for me. Like I would prefer it just to go gonzo and not being like, this is the joke, and the joke is that we're doing it again and again, and like, because I think Wet Hot American Summer is a good example because it doesn't wink at us. Like I think it just kind of goes for it. It doesn't have to like tell us the thing. This movie I think is telling us a thing over and over again. But
you can say that again.
Gavin, I swear to fucking God.
You look like you've had a bad day.
Hey, tell me about it.
Well, you came in here looking like crap and you haven't said very much.
You Say that again.
Well, you came in here looking like crap, and you haven't said very much.
Hey, tell me about it.
Well, you came in here looking like crap, and you haven't said very much.
Yeah, say that again.
Well, you came in here looking like crap, and you haven't said very much.
Hey, tell me about it.
Well, you came in here looking like crap, and you haven't said very much.
You love that scene?
I love that scene.
Oh my god!
Tell me about it. You can say that again.
No.
Tell me about it.
Nothing encapsulates what I dislike in comedy more than that scene. Oh my god. Shoot me in the face. I guess we're getting like to the era though of Marvel. Like
yes.
It is nigh. He gets Ant-Man in 2015. He not only gets Ant-Man, he writes the screenplay or helps write the screenplay. Yeah. And you know, I was rewatching some clips of it and I was like, yeah, there are some silly bits like that, you know, I think because the idea of Ant-Man as a big budget superhero is very silly. And so there are bits in the movie where like the ants keep getting eaten by seagulls. And I was like, yeah, that has Paul Rudd written all over it, you know?
Yeah.
And like him being like, oh no, the suit, and like it is, he becomes to represent like the Marvel like silliness, like that humor we will see again in Guardians of the Galaxy and then in Thor and like just smeared across the entire MCU. Like I think you can really pinpoint Marvel going in that direction.
Well, I was gonna say I think Guardians of the Galaxy is first, but yeah,
oh, really?
but that definite that like
tone
of, you know, and that's what a lot of people actually complain about nowadays.
Yeah, now I mean
the jokey, but also like if those movies didn't have jokes, Jesus Christ, like
what would they have?
Yeah, exactly. So it's funny. I had this argument with a lot of people where Ant-Man really felt like the first time for me, because I know a lot of people are like, oh, they're all the same, but I could at least like it at least felt like they, you know, depending on who the director was, sometimes Marvel was working with somebody that had a singular point of view and was willing to try something different. And Ant-Man was one of the first times I really felt like, oh, we're just mining the same well. And I know a lot of people are like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, at its core, it's basically almost the same structure as Iron Man. And people are like, well, no, there's a whole heist thing. And it's like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like that's overlaid onto it, you know, and it's like, oh, the joking, like those
redemption jokes.
Yeah, those are like situations placed on top of, but the bones are the same. And so like I know it's not a popular opinion, I've never been a fan of either of the Ant-Man movies. I think the second one's mildly better, but I don't know. I would rather spend my time doing something else, I guess.
I don't think they like rise to any, you know, special place, but Ant-Man is very key in the Endgame, Infinity War. Like everyone by this point has like been playing these roles. So like the scenes of him and like the Hulk having breakfast and like taking selfies with like kids and stuff, like that's funny. I like that.
Yeah,
I like them just hanging out, like when it's not like, you know, we got to go back in time, whatever. So yes, the Ant-Man of it all, he is an Ant-Man. And
and it's keeping him real busy. And outside of that, he's doing some TV. You know, he did Living with Yourself for Netflix, and
he does like a couple other. I saw The Fundamentals of Caring.
Yes, yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot about it. That was like early Netflix film. Yeah,
right. And I also, you know, saw during this time. It seems like he's trying to like maybe get in his drama bag outside of Marvel.
Because this is when he does the
Ideal
Home, which like it's not a movie I loved, but he sure looked so cute in it.
I was surprised because they sold Ideal Home as like an Apatow type like thing. It's like, these parents suck.
Yeah.
But it's actually a very like charming and like almost like sad. I mean, yeah, sad. I mean, it's this kid is left with his father, who is now a gay man, and
his grandfather.
That's right. And
played by Steve Coogan, who and I liked Paul Rudd and Steve Coogan. I just could never buy them as a couple, and not because of the script is they're a couple at odds, but like in the scenes in which they're not at odds, I was just like, oh, these two just don't have any like actual sexual chemistry with each other.
We can't have a kid. We are kids.
Well, that's not true.
You're more of a kid than me.
Do I have a sense of play? Oh, yeah. But you're a man. You're a great big hulking Paleolithic beast of a man.
You're talking about my ass.
It's a deeply unsexual film, even though there is allegedly a scene of them fucking.
Yeah, but that's the other thing when he plays gay. Like, I mean, Object of My Affection, there's some kissing as well, but like The Catcher was a spy, which, by the way, is the fucking worst title of any. I get that it's a pun, but like it's genuinely the worst title.
What's the pun? The Catcher was a...
The Catcher in the Rye.
That's what the pun is supposed to be?
Yeah, The Catcher was a spy. It's I guess maybe puns too loose, maybe just reference.
Do they reference that book in the movie at all?
No, it's just the title.
Right, okay.
But anyways, yeah, he plays a gay baseball player who's also a super genius.
Yeah.
And true story, went to become a spy to go kill off Adolf Hitler's #1 scientist working for Heisenberg for the atom bomb, but could never find proof, you know?
Right. Yeah, that movie certainly was made. Wild. You know, Prince Avalanche.
Sure. Just Prince Avalanche.
What was that movie about? I watched it.
I mean, that's sort of... It was about people. It was just about people. That's David... When David Gordon Green's not making bad Halloween films, like, that's what his thing was, is he would just make films about people. And I don't know, I liked bits of it. Like, it's that observational, like, slice of life.
Yeah, I guess.
I didn't love it. It was like a 3-star movie for me, but that scene with the woman who's going through her house.
Yeah.
Like, and that woman's not an actor. They found that woman doing that. They asked if they could film her. So like, that's like a pseudo documentary bit.
Yeah. This movie is about these two guys who are doing cleanup on like the ruins of burned Texas.
Yeah.
And it's just the two of them and this one woman who, is she there? Who knows? Who can never be sure. But yeah, I mean, I did watch some of Living with Yourself. Fun, harmless.
I didn't really get too much in the TV stuff. Living with Yourself, The Shrinks Next Door. Like I was like, it's fine. I think I know a picture.
He has done theater.
Yes.
He was big into the New York theater scene. He did Broadway, Shakespeare in the Park. You know, he
has done Broadway before.
Yeah, he has done Broadway before. He likes it. I think he talks about, like, you know, the energy of being in the room and the crowd. So he's very into the theater scene, which is kind of weird to me because I cannot imagine him on stage. Like, what is Paul Rudd bringing to the stage? I don't know.
I'm sure he's very charming.
Personal life, he's been married to the same woman since 2003. They have 2 kids. They met like working on Clueless. Julie Yeager.
She wrote Fun Mom Dinner, everybody's favorite movie.
Yes, which we mentioned last episode.
Yes.
They've been married. They have 2 kids. They still live in New York. He's a big, very into like charity work as well. He's a supporter of the Stuttering Association for the Young. He's also a founder of the charity The Big Slick, which is a celebrity sports event in Kansas City. He's a big Kansas sports buff, and it supports Kansas City's Children's Mercy Hospital. So yeah.
Also interesting, in 2014, him and Jeffrey Dean Morgan bought a candy store, a Samuel's Sweet Shop. It's a candy store in Rhinebeck, New York, and they bought it because the previous owner, who was a friend of theirs, died unexpectedly, and the store was gonna get, close essentially, and so they still co-own it to this day. It's open. There's like specials for Jeffrey Dean Morgan and specials for Paul Rudd.
These two men who have worked with Katherine Heigl, crazy.
Yeah, and I did want to. The other thing I did want to mention about the charitable stuff, like he just seems, as you mentioned before, like he's a nice, normal guy.
Yes.
Like he sent, video chatted with this kid who was like a victim of bullying. Like he's just totally sweet, normal guy. And he's just committed to the bit. The one thing I wanted to touch on before we moved into our picks, because I feel like we've been dancing around it, and I feel like we kind of need to talk about it, even if it's just brief. Many times on the show, we've talked about people who are actors and people who are movie stars, and there is a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And I know how I feel about this, but where does Paul Rudd fall for you?
He's a movie star.
He's 100% a movie star. And I feel bad saying that because he is somebody who studied his craft, but he's been allowed, even in, you just mentioned Prince Avalanche and you were like, what is that movie about? And I'm like, yeah, it's people, it's observational. But even in fucking Prince Avalanche, he's got to have his moment where he's like dancing around and doing his mime thing and just doing the Paul Rudd thing where he just does the little funny dances, and he's just got to get the dancing in all the time. And we've talked about Sam Rockwell doing it, but Sam Rockwell always finds a place to make it organic to the character, and that's not happening here. And I think it's because he's just allowed to get on stage and be charming, that he hasn't had to act in a long time.
Well, and it literally starts from Clueless on. Like, he dances in Clueless, and he should, because that's what the character should do. But like, he does it, and we fall in love with him because he's Josh. But then like I was watching This Is 40, and I'm like, wow, they really do have the montage of him and Leslie Mann like getting high and dancing on the bed, and like and this feels very bizarre because it feels like we're coming down on Paul Rudd.
And we're not, like, listen, we're not actors. Like we and like, I don't want to, I think in the end, we're not trained actors. We can't be like, oh my God, here is the technique as to what he's not getting. But
but I think like, for one, this maybe is coming off difficult because like a lot of his movies aren't our flavor of movie, and that's fine. But also too, like, there is nothing. His showiness, his like moments are always going to be in lanes that we do not appreciate, because he's giving the fraternity look at me, ha 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 vibes. Whereas you and I want to see fucking Marilyn Monroe in like a dress and like fucking like, it's just not the flavor for us. But I completely understand and totally get like his, like you said, charm offensive. And we have talked about people like this before on this podcast. I think, Jennifer Lopez, I think, is in this lane. Jennifer Lopez, she just has fucking star power. Like, Paul Rudd just has star power. Like, that's just the thing. Jennifer Aniston, who I think is a very funny actress, but she just has star power. She's able to be Jennifer Aniston, and like, that is okay. And so like, he is in good company, but I was thinking about like, God, no one has really asked him to do anything.
We should get out of this rewind. But I did think that was just an important conversation to have, because like we both, I felt like we were with kit gloves trying to be like, listen, we're making hints and observations, but like, I think it's more important that we're just like, this is truly how we feel about this. Yeah. And like, it's not a knock on him. He's great, but like, it's just, he's a movie star.
Yeah. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, man, Paul Rudd, for as much as we like him, he's like toast, just like, Great for breakfast. Not going to think about it.
All right, let's get out of here. Let's get into our 1-star reviews.
Gavin, spin the wheel, babe.
I know. There's so much that I watched for this and even things that I thought I liked that I revisited and was like, oh, goodness. I mean, I guess I'll go. I have said this before. I really hope that I'm called as a witness for the Hague Tribunal about Dinner for Schmucks, because I truly think Dinner for Schmucks is just a weapon of destruction in the world. It's exactly the thing you were talking about, and I'm glad you brought it up. The idea that, no, that's not bad. You're bad for being judgmental. And it's like, no, it doesn't work. Dinner for Schmucks is a film in which Paul Rudd plays he's like a business guy. It's so funny. They make a big joke about like nobody really understanding what he does in the movie, or like the one character thinking he's a stockbroker, but then they never really fully explain what he does ever. So
there's a lot of movies like this though. I mean, like Wanderlust is the same thing where it's like, well, you have a corporate job, and he's like, well, yeah, I have to pay bills. What are you talking about?
But he wants a promotion, and his boss invites him to this dinner that they have every now and then, in which they invite, it's called like the most interesting person, and they invite losers to make fun of them. And he's with his fiance, who doesn't want to be his fiance, or is like, give me more time, and he keeps asking her to marry him. And he's like, oh, I have this dinner, and he just happens to meet this pathetic but also incredibly dangerous man,
the titular Smuck.
Yeah, the titular Smuck, played by Steve Carell, as you mentioned before. And this man comes into his life and proceeds to systematically destroy it, ruin everything, by not just being an idiot, but also being a truly harmful person.
Yeah.
And this is where the movie is really like, this part doesn't work for me, but also Paul Rudd doesn't work for me, because this is one of those movies where it doesn't know if it wants you to believe Paul Rudd is bad or if he's good, because he continually also makes every bad decision and is doing it for selfish reasons. And then in the end, comes down to, well, we're both good guys, so we're in the right. And I don't want to describe too much more of it, because it's just so many bad gags after bad gags. But just to give you an idea, this is a 2-hour fucking movie, and the dinner doesn't even start until 20 minutes from the end of this film.
Again, like, I can't help but think, like, the movies like this give a lot of permission to people about, like, isn't Steve Carell so hilarious in this movie? I'm just gonna, and being obnoxious, and like, and in the end, he was a good guy. We've talked about this, for a couple times, but like in Jim Carrey, I was like, yeah, The Mask was the funniest thing I've ever seen. And like, him like assaulting this woman, like, I was like, oh, behaving this way. But like, and you think about now, and like the way men act specifically now, and like, I guess maybe not even specifically now, but like continuously now, and like with women and just being like harmful, obnoxious people on the internet. It's like movies like this, have these kooky, crazy characters, and it's like it just gives them people. If I could be really off base, but like it feels like they give people like blank checks, being like, oh well, if that's funny and people are laughing at that, I'm gonna do that also. It's like, ugh.
Right, because the solution in the end is that like
everyone else.
And here's the thing: I don't mind a movie that takes down the rich or is like laugh at the bad people, but the film fails to acknowledge that all of the other characters are also bad people. And it's such a strange thing, because it's like the movie is unable to pick a lane as to where it wants to come. And it's a remake of a very famous French film, and it has so little in common. Like an important movie to French people, I do want to point out.
I remember that. Yeah.
And that movie is, the whole thing is the dinner, and the Paul Rudd character is the bad guy, and because he's the one who throws the dinner. And like because for morality play to work,
right,
you need a moral core.
Right. So, the idea that you're like inviting losers, quote unquote, to make fun of them to dinner, like that is reprehensible, just as like a idea.
But the movie wants you to be like, oh, isn't he complicated? Because he's going back and forth about whether he should invite this guy or not. And as this guy, as Steve Carell, systematically dismantles his life, ruins his relationship with his girlfriend, ruins a job prospect for him, brings a stalker back into his life, played by Lucy Punch, which I will say this, I'm not always on the Lucy Punch train. I was like, you know what, maybe I should give Lucy Punch another shot. Because the first couple bits when she came in, I was like, oh, she actually gave me one of the few laughs in this movie. But it's giving you permission to think, oh, it's now okay for him to be an asshole because this other character's an asshole. And so there's no center here. It's all just bad people being bad.
What are you doing?
Computer.
Oh my God, you gave her my address?
She's very concerned about you.
Barry, this woman is a nightmare. She's been stalking me for 3 years. I slept with her one night. Biggest mistake of my life. It was before I even met Julie.
Why did you do that?
Because it was New Year's and I was drunk and she was wearing these fishnet stockings.
You want me to tell her not to come?
Go.
The studio was like, okay, Carell doing bits, Paul Rudd's charm. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. And that's what this movie's hanging on. It's like, that does not make a movie. Sorry, gal.
No, it took me 3 days to watch this movie.
Jesus Christ.
I kept pausing it to be like, I can't do this anymore. So that's when I knew. I was like, this is my 1-star review. Louis, what do you got?
My 1-star review is 2018's The Catcher Was a Spy.
Yeah, because I don't blame you.
This movie is like a 30 Rock sketch. Like, it's when whoever found this book, it's based on a book. When they found this, they said, "Oh my goodness, a gay baseball player who was a super genius who was sent to kill Hitler's scientist. Oh my God." Oscar buzz. Uh-oh. Like, this movie was created in a lab, okay? And they said, who's hot right now? Who do people love? And Paul Rudd, who is freshly Ant-Man, I guess. And it is insane because this movie clearly is aiming for notoriety and like importance. Who is there is a guy in this movie that I was like, what? Oh, Paul Giamatti is in this movie. Paul Giamatti, who is the like American scientist who is like, no, you need to go do this thing because it's so bad. Paul Giamatti is giving it his like Oscar best, and it's a period drama. And so he like Paul Giamatti lives there. But then you have Paul Rudd, who has a face and a voice that knows what cell phones are. And
yes. Thank you.
And he's so miscast. I mean, like, it is nuts. And it's the movie, I also think, doesn't look good. There's like full-on war action sequences that I'm like, okay, they spent $20. This is crazy.
Yeah, just because you tint something sepia doesn't magically make it old.
Like, and I just think like there is a good movie in this story. This man, Mo Berg, deserves like fucking an entire Pride Month and a half, bitch. Like,
yeah,
bisexual representation. Like, but also though, I think I looked up that the movie wants him to be more bisexual than I think he was just gay. But whatever. truly whatever. Like this was a friend of Dorothy. He was one of us, and this movie is very like. Of course he had to be closeted. Of course. I don't need him to be butt fucking all across this movie.
Right.
But I do need like the movie to it's very just like it's the Bohemian Rhapsody of it all. Like, you know, it's like, yeah,
Yes.
I was, but that's whatever and none of your business. And like the movie goes out of its way to be like, I saw you and wanted to have sex with you, woman. And it's like, okay, I guess. Like it's very, it really deeply wants us to believe that like this man was just a genius and like didn't have like it's upsetting.
Also, like it is nice that Paul Rudd is able to. He's been accused of being covertly Jewish over the years, and so it is nice to like have him acknowledge the Jewishness by playing a Jewish character, Moberg. When it finally shows Moberg at the end, the real Moberg, I was like, baby, this is not Paul Rudd. This is like cast somebody who is more suited to this role too, and maybe they'll bring something slightly more interesting to it. Because yeah, you're right. Because it's also Paul Rudd in his most boring mode. You know, when there's that scene, is it Jeff Daniels who plays the like guy that hires him to, and he's like, are you queer? And he's like, I keep my life private. And I was just like, oh my God, how many hours of this movie are left? And the funny thing is, this is not even a long movie.
Not married, no children. Odd for a man your age, no?
Never occurred to me.
May I ask you a very personal question?
You may.
Are you queer?
I'm good at keeping secrets.
The closest we get to him being outwardly queer is like he goes to Japan to play baseball and he meets some representative politician, I don't know, and they have like a drink and they have like, it's wild though, because I think in the hands of literally anyone else or a director who is interested in exploring that, like it could have been a very hot scene of like them having drinks together and like asking questions, but they're really asking is like, are we gonna have sex?
Yeah, this is gonna lead to fucking.
Yeah. But instead it's just the most bland. I think they like cut to him putting like his tie back on it. And I was like, did you guys do anything? Like, what is the implication here that like, you know, you went to Japan to play football and like
baseball.
Oh, baseball. Sorry. Wow. But also like
the gay jumped out.
The gay jumped out. But the implication is that this man is also the one who's telling him like, oh no, war is happening. Like war will come, you know? And I'm like, okay, so there is this one avatar who is supposed to be representative of all of Japan and also is the guy who he is sleeping with. Like it's very bizarre. This movie is trying to be very important and it's just comes off as so cheap. It feels like a 30 Rock movie. Like it really does. And Paul Rudd is very bad. I cannot believe miscast, unequipped to do anything in this movie. Not all his fault because the movie itself, I mean, it's woof all around. It's free on Tubi now if you want to watch it, but I don't recommend it.
I would ask if there's anything else, but I mean, genuinely, it is a laundry list. So why don't we just get into our 5-star reviews and move on from here?
There is a 5-star movie in this, filmography, but I don't think for me it's what I want to talk about because I think actually his best performance is in The Object of My Affection, which I think is a flawed movie, but also like I'm trying to like meet the movie where it's at. Because again, like we talked about this with Connie and Carla and like, you know, we have been talking the 90s and aughts were like very hard for like gays on film, especially in the mainstream. But I think his performance in this movie is actually very, very tender and nuanced. And I think, you know, that early in his career to be so unabashedly playing gay, and the movie is unabashed. It is unlike The Catcher in the Spy. This movie is clear in its vision, and I think, you know, I buy him and Jennifer Aniston becoming those good friends. You know, the movie starts off with he's in a relationship with a successful man, and he's a teacher, and like he has his little gay life. And the gag is he goes to a party where Jennifer Aniston is, and Jennifer Aniston's like, "Oh, I met your boyfriend. He says you're looking for a new place." And he's like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "Well, he says you're moving out, girl." And so the drama, whatever. And so he's, in fact, does move in with her because he has nowhere to go. They end up becoming very good friends. They take ballroom dancing lessons together. It's very cute. And I could see in 1998, these two very attractive people, why shouldn't they be together? Why, you know, and if society, and it should be that easy, you know? But like we mentioned, she falls a little too hard, is actually wanting to be with him. And I think the movie does a well enough job of, you know, letting this man have his own life. And I think Paul Rudd, there is an ease to this performance. He is so unencumbered by, you know, I'm very impressed by him this early in his career. Has all the charm that we know and love and the likability stuff, but is just so unencumbered by self-consciousness, you know, just very relaxed. And I absolutely buy him. I think he has chemistry with all the men in this movie who he has romantic dalliances with. So yeah, I watched it again, and I just felt like, you know, for me it holds up and is a good like little time capsule of this era of New York. And also it's like kind of like a hopeful movie. I think the book is actually a lot darker. But in the end, like they are able to figure out their relationship as friends with the kid. He has his male lover. And it definitely feels like, I don't know, a Girls episode if it was made in 1998 or something. I don't know.
This isn't easy. I promised her I'd help her with the baby.
That's great. Help her. You be the uncle. You be the godfather.
You don't understand. I'm more excited about this baby than anything ever in my life.
More than me.
Oh, jeez, Paul, don't make it that way.
I'm not making it that way. You are. I love you very much.
I was hesitating to do this because you seem so adamant about not liking it.
Do it.
I truly think Wanderlust is my 5-star review. I don't want to give it to Clueless because Clueless is his first film, and I feel like that's such a mean thing to do, to be like, your first was your best and then you've never been able to recapture. And I don't think that's true. I definitely don't think that's true. But I think what works about Wanderlust is he is taking that sort of character that he's perfected, that sort of everyman character, and it places him in a situation where he is so fish out of water. And then to double down on that, takes his wife, played by Jennifer Aniston, which I told you when I texted you, I think it's one of Jennifer Aniston's best performances.
You did tell me that, which is wild.
I think she's so good in it. I think she could do to be sillier in her career. And yeah. I think the part that I think part of it is what the audience expects of her, because Friends was so prestigious, even though it was a comedy, it's considered, like, because it was so popular, it's become this prestige thing that she should be doing prestige movies. And like, I want less cake from her and more Wanderlust. But I like him doing this sort of, every man trapped in this hippie commune, but trying to get along, seeing the absurdity of it. I love, you know, Lauren Ambrose in the movie.
She's so good.
She's so fucking good, and she's so deranged.
Yeah.
With her, like, this is my African American boyfriend.
I know.
But like that stuff, and like looking around and being able to see like, this is a crazy situation, but this is the situation that I'm in, and I'm gonna make the best of it, and filling in that world. I don't know. I think he's so funny in some of those scenes. And yeah, the Madiek scene goes on for so long, and it's unnecessary. And it's so funny that they put in that blooper at the end, which, once again, bloopers during credits, still don't know how I feel about them.
I'm pro bloopers. I love a good blooper.
It depends. It truly depends. When we were making my senior thesis film in college, the director, I was the assistant director, but I also wrote the movie, and the director was like, we should put some bloopers in the end credits, and I was just like, do we want to be one of those movies?
Wow,
and I was the one time I overruled the director. I was like, come on, let's not do that.
You're like, we're making a serious film, okay?
Yes. In the bloopers, he's like, okay, I'm grossing myself out now. Like, he like brought it to a point that it was too far for him, and I think that's indicative of what's happening. But I don't know. I really, even the stuff at the beginning, I love that bit at the beginning of them buying the house. I love the bit of them, like, every argument. The micro loft. Yes, that's right. I do love that conversation he has with his friend where he's like, it's both small and expensive. And he's like, wow, small and expensive. Usually people only get one.
Mm-hmm.
And, but the scene of them having every argument, but also every joy while they're moving out of New York City.
Right.
I love that stuff. To me, that's the textured stuff that works for him, that like shows off what he can do as a comedic actor, and isn't just him relying on doing a funny face or doing a funny dance.
So obsessed with your Joe's coffee. It had to be Joe's coffee.
It's great fucking coffee.
Oh, that water, keep on rolling. Mississippi Blue, won't you keep on?
We are fucked. We're fucked. Orange, stop.
And I ain't got no money, 'cause I ain't got no hurry at all.
That's how much you made last year. $800.
You know what? I think you like that I don't work. How could you let this happen to us?
$800.
I didn't mean it. I was upset.
Yes, I meant it. I meant it.
I think him and Jennifer Aniston have really good chemistry. It's wild that we
agree. Yeah.
That we both picked a movie where they are the stars.
I know. I was thinking that during I was like, am I going to pick the other Jennifer Aniston, Paul Rudd duo?
I will say, I don't think it's a disservice to say Clueless, because Clueless, in my eyes, Clueless is a 5-star movie.
It is. This is not me trying to take anything, not to interrupt you, and it's not me trying to take away anything from Clueless. I just think I think if I was the person listening to this, which obviously Paul Rudd's not going to listen to this episode, though, and this is breaking news. This is the first time anybody's heard this besides Louis or I. We do know actually that one of our subjects has listened to one of our episodes.
We do know.
Such a weird feeling, and we're not going to tell you who, but an actual celebrity has actually listened to one of our episodes. But
hey, J-Lo, imagine.
We hear you, Kevin Bacon.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if I were like Paul Rudd and I was listening to this episode and somebody was like, oh, my first movie was the best thing I've ever done.
I mean, but listen, that's not his fault. Like, it's not his fault that the first thing he like really did was this incredible culture changing movie. Like, that is, and I know you're not trying to take away from that, but like, I don't want to spare his feelings. Like, I'm sorry, you were in the most incredible movie of the 90s. Like, it is what it is. And he is very good in that. And I think him and Alicia Silverstone have a great chemistry in that movie. I think he plays stuck up college bro who like, again, he has in this era, I think he has an ease to himself that I really like, that feels like it disappeared in the Apatow world, where in the Apatow world, he's pushing and like, because it's bits. In pre that era, it's the ease and the charming, and like it's a little bit more charismatic. I do want to say, you know, I think Role Models is funny. I rewatched I Love You Man, and I still kind of like it. I think him and Jason Segel are like doing their thing.
Yeah, and that's the one where like I reversed on, because I think there's a lot of good performers in I Love You Man, but I couldn't take it this time, and I thought Siegel's character was so toxic and so like inserting himself where he doesn't belong, and actually is kind of a much like darker, sadder character than the movie makes him out to be.
Right,
the movie
it's weird. When I first rewatching it, I was like, I could have sworn they gave him a better redemption, or like I could have sworn there was more like a revelation of him realizing that there is something wrong within himself as well.
Right.
Like his lifestyle isn't great, but you're right. It doesn't happen. The movie pushes all that aside just to kind of get to like, these two men can finally admit to themselves and to each other that like, you are special to me in my life. But like it's funny because that in of itself is so hard in our culture. Like,
right,
we cannot tackle the other things that are like wrong.
It's weird because it's like it's such a simple resolution, but it does feel like the movie kind of has to both sides toxic masculinity throughout the whole thing in order to get there, which is like a shitty place to be, and that's what turned me off this time. And like, listen, you know, there are a lot of I also don't want to say that we're being completely negative. I love the movie The Shape of Things, which we didn't even talk about in this episode, but we have talked about in the Rachel Weisz episode. And that particular performance, while it is very theatrical, it's because they were doing that play for so long that when they made the movie out of it with the original cast, like it was a very lived in, like he had been doing it for the stage. But I do like him in that role still.
Yeah, and I think, you know, again, of the Apatow stuff, like the 40-Year-Old Virgin and Knocked Up.
Yeah.
In the same way that Clueless changed culture, like those movies did as well. You know, it was just a different time. And I think, you know, I remember watching both of those movies in 2005, 2007, whatever, and laughing my fucking ass off. You know, like it's hard to watch now just because it's like, oh God, the way we talked about women is fucking crazy. But
and the way that like attempting to like make sense of men. I mean, I still love this regardless of how I feel about them as a whole. The scene in Knocked Up where he asks Seth Rogen, "Do you ever wonder how anybody could ever like you?" is still really heartbreaking.
Yeah.
In a very funny, in the middle of like a very funny movie.
Think he'll take us back?
Yes. But I don't know why. Do you ever wonder how somebody could even like you?
All the time, man. Like every day. I wonder how you like me.
How can Debbie like me? She likes me. I mean, she loves me. The biggest problem in our marriage is that she wants me around.
And it's almost as if like during this era, to get to male like feelings and like big issues, it had to be like, we have to go through like shitting on women to get there, you know? Like,
yeah,
it's almost as if like Judd Apatow's movies always have this emotional core of like male panic and like insecurity. But like to get there, you know, you've got to get through like all the toxic men jokes and women are stupid jokes, which is unfortunate, but like also just shows where we were at in 2005, you know, like we had to get through it, I guess. But let's do our mixed reviews review.
My 1-star review was 2010's Dinner for Schmucks.
My 1-star review was 2018's The Catcher Was a Spy.
My 5-star review was 2012's Wanderlust.
My 5-star review was 1998's The Object of My Affection. All right, let's get into the fast forward. So we're doing this episode mostly because Quantumania is coming out.
Right, because he has another Ant-Man movie coming out.
Yeah, which is promising to be like, I don't know, some sort of ending or beginning of whatever era of Marvel-ness we're in right now.
Yeah, it's the beginning of Phase 5, I guess, and it is... You know, the trailer looks like darkness, 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 which everybody is kind of shocked about because the Ant-Man movies have been light so far.
It feels like they're the other Ant-Man movies were kind of just like fillers, I would say. It feels like they're saying, okay, well, Ant-Man is one of the characters we have left over from the original,
right? Because we're hemorrhaging the original actors now,
and so they really gave him this platform to be like, okay, well, we're going to introduce the new big bad. We're going to like really give Ant-Man and Paul Rudd kind of this big hurrah. I don't know if this is his last Ant-Man or not.
I don't know. He's not allowed to say. They're not allowed to talk about anything in a Marvel interview.
Yeah, so I'll go see it. You know, I'm excited to see Kang and Jonathan Majors, who is aggressively hot.
Yeah.
Evangeline Lilly is a crazy person, unfortunately. Which is
the less said about Evangeline Lilly, the better.
Yeah. But we have two other subjects in Ant-Man, the Ant-Man universe. We've got Michelle Pfeiffer and Michael Douglas.
Yes.
And you know what? We stand them both. We will go for them.
What do you want from Paul Rudd? I mean, I don't care if I see him on stage. I don't. This will be the first time I will say that.
I was thinking that, and I was like, you know, he would make a very good villain. And apparently, there's a Netflix movie that I did not watch, where he does play a villain. I believe it's called Mute.
Don't watch Mute.
Don't watch it? Okay.
Yeah, because I watched Mute when we did our Sam Rockwell episode.
Rockwell, okay.
Even though Sam Rockwell only has like a cameo in it, but it's so bad. Is this what we're gonna get from Paul Rudd forever? If it is, it'll be fine. Like, he's fine at it, and that's fine.
Well, I just think, like, you know, I think it would be an interesting new texture to see him. He could have very easily been the Frozen bad guy, which he's the prince, but he's actually a fucking asshole.
Yes.
Like, he could do that very easily. But a part of me wonders if he's not interested in that, because I think he, like, very much is like, I don't want to be a bad guy. Like, I'm, you know, likable Paul Rudd, even though I think he maybe would say that he is annoyed by people saying he's like likable and whatever. I think he's also just like doesn't want to be a manipulative, violent murderer or whatever, you know? And it feels limiting to me, because I think he could. How exciting would it be for him to like be an actual full-blown villain,
right,
and using those powers for evil? Because there are a lot of hot villains out there that need to be represented.
It's funny that you would say limiting, because I did in the rewind say that it is noble when you find people that you like working with and you continue to work with them, but I do think it has been limiting for him. But it also then leads me to question, like, yeah, but does he want to push?
Right.
And when you watch things like The Catcher Was a Spy, it's like, well, is he trying to push, or was this an easy thing for him to go do? And I don't know. I feel like I'm being so negative. I don't want to be negative. I didn't hate watching a ton of these movies. Like, I was selective about the movies I watched, and I do think he's really funny and charming, and I like seeing him in stuff. And yeah, I think that's what you show up for. You know, do I need to see him in another fucking Ghostbusters movies, which I think he is going to be in the next one again? Like, no, because, like, you know, all they hired him for was to play sexy Rick Moranis, which, like,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. But so, like it's funny you mentioned that, because I think I heard him say, like, he's doing what he likes to do.
Yes.
And so I wonder if, like, he likes hanging out with his friends and making those dumb movies, like, that are not my flavor, like, but, you know, he's like, oh, I can hang out with Amy Poehler again and, like, you know, be with my buds. Right. And, like, I think he likes it, and it's easy, and, like, people like it too. Like, who the fuck am I? Like, people like that stuff. They want him to be the likable everyman who, like, is in, you know, if not in light rom-coms, then in, like, you know, these bits things. Like, because you know what? Like, Melissa McCarthy and This Is 40 is hilarious. So I'll fucking sit through This Is 40 to watch it, you know, like, and it's fine. It's no skin off my back. And so I think, that is his superpower though. Like, his superpower is just being like, yeah, you can get through this like bro comedy movie because he is, I think, aspirational to so many straight men who it's like, God, I want to be as charismatic and carefree and funny and like easy breezy as Paul Rudd. And there are not many guys who could do that, because like when you think about the people who auditioned for Josh, like Ben Affleck and Zach Braff, Ben Affleck quickly decided he's going to zoom over to dramas. Like, he dabbled in the rom-com world, meh. And he said, no, because he does not have the likability factor that Paul Rudd does, Zach Braff is...
I think the same. I don't think Zach Braff has the likability factor Paul Rudd does.
Right. And Zach Braff is just like better off being gonzo TV guy. And like,
yeah,
that's fine. Like, what is the thing that Paul Rudd has? It is the charm. It is the likability. And that, I think, pushes like America and the world to believe like Ant-Man is a viable like blockbuster like movie, like,
right.
Like, there are all these things. And I think Hollywood is weaponizing Paul Rudd and his likability to get us to see these like perhaps not 5-star movies, but that is powerful, and at the very least it's not Ben Affleck,
Yeah, very that.
Just quickly, like, he also is going to be in the next Only Murders in the Building for a couple episodes.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, very like him and
Meryl.
They got Meryl. So hey,
yeah, he's in the last episode of the second season, I believe.
Is he?
And
I need to start watching that at some point, but
that's a show that like likes itself a lot, and it's not bad.
Starring Steve Martin and Martin Short. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I know. I like Selena Gomez. I don't understand what she's doing here. I don't get the bit that she's doing.
We'll save that for the Selena Gomez episode. Stay tuned in 2 weeks.
Stay tuned. But yeah, I don't know if there's anything else to say. I think he's a mostly harmless actor who is comfy, cozy in his lane. And if he ever wanted to push, he could, but I don't think he's there right now.
Yeah.
So mazel.
Yeah, exactly. Someday we'll get the Paul Rudd Dirty Harry that we've all been dreaming of.
Please.
All right.
Until then,
if you want to contact us, you can always find us on Twitter at The Mixed Reviews.
We're on Facebook. Just type in The Mixed Reviews.
You can always email us at reviewsmixed@gmail.com.
We're also on Instagram at _mixed_reviews.
You can also listen to our back catalog like you listened to this entire episode. And you can find that all on any major podcast app. We're on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Google, Audible, Amazon. And if you do listen to us on Apple Podcasts, please stop by, leave us a 5-star rating, write us a little review, or read on the show. What that does, and I know this just drags out the ending, but it really helps us in the algorithm. It gets other people to find our shows, expands our audience, and we get to have a larger family. We love that.
It's funny. What was the episode Trana just tweeted us that she went back to listen to for the first time?
Oh, the Keira Knightley episode. Yeah.
I just love that. Like, I love that people, because everyone has their own ways that they listen to podcasts, and like, do you? Boo? And so I love that you guys are able to go back and find, other episodes of people you skipped or missed, and we have a lot of them. So please, by all means, dibble here, dabble there, whatever. But thank you guys for listening. Thank you to our Patreon family, and we will see you guys in 2 weeks.
God, why does my nose keep itching?
Uh-oh, the classic itchy nose.
Yeah, it's because I keep doing all this blow.
Classic Gavin vice. You just love cocaine.